Hi, this is Chris Brunhaver with PS Audio, and I'm here in our music room too, answering questions about speakers and acoustics and design. And we've got a question here from Carlos in Milwaukee, and his question is, room acoustics or gear? He says, I usually listen to music with volumes around 70 dB and rarely higher than 80 dB. In which volume levels in dB should I worry about the room acoustics? Recently, I was told I should spend $5,000 to fix my room acoustics due to its dimensions. If I had $5,000 to spare, I'd buy a Stellar Phonopre and Stellar DAC and Ortofon moving coil cartridge instead. Is the room's influence a function of the volume level that I listen to? Thank you. Well, that's always a question that we see, in customers' minds, like what's an upgrade path from where I'm at to where I want to be? What's the next element that I should be focusing on? And room acoustics are often, considered last because, I don't think they're well understood in some ways where it's pretty obvious, the differences between other elements of a system, and it's more of abstract for people, I think, to put money into their room. Also people don't really lust after compressed fiberglass insulation as much as they might a cool, beautiful piece of gear. And there's also, an issue with, a lot of folks in the room acoustics game. It's kind of like going to the doctor. You go into a doctor's visit, they spend 10 minutes with you, you get a bill to your insurance for $300, and you're like, how is it that their time is worth the $300? It's like, well, it's not that 15 minutes is worth the $300. It's that their 20 years of experience is worth the $300. And so a lot of acousticians and room acoustics recommendations are sort of geared in that way, where you're hiring a consultant, or you have someone who's designing a system that you're paying a markup to for their time and things, and it's not just straight gear. Because it's an engineered solution in a lot of ways. I think the other thing is small room acoustics. Historically there wasn't a ton of research done on because there's not a lot of money there for relative to fixed installation. Performing arts centers and churches and things like that. Historically, not a lot of acousticians and room treatment was sold into the home. And that's not to say that it couldn't be. It's just that, a lot of it was designed around spaces and in such a way it wasn't really applicable to the home. So over the last, 30 or so years, there's been a revolution in understanding, room acoustics in homes. But one of the things about it is there's a thing called the mean free path, which is how far a sound has to go to bounce off of a boundary. And every time you're hitting a boundary, there's loss here. And that distance is so small in a room that you don't tend to have in a home-sized room, that you don't tend to have the same acoustic problems as you do in a giant concert hall. That is to say, you don't have to look at RT 60 times and room reverberance as a big issue. And the issues we tend to have in small rooms are ones of bass uniformity, bass resonances, room modes, things of that nature, and then also early reflections, boundaries and things very near your speakers, causing coloration. So I would say yes, you should invest in room treatments at a certain level of system. And it doesn't have to be complicated to start. It's one of those things where typically you don't need a lot in the way of high frequency absorption, and it's in fact at these mid and low frequencies where you need absorption. And but having some diffusion in mid and high frequencies is good. And sort of we can talk more about rules of thumb, but typically I wouldn't put absorption right on the first reflection of the sidewalls. I would put a diffusion there, just because that's where you get a lot of your apparent source width. It's from sidewall reflections, and so you don't want to damp those in particular. But yeah, as far as rough numbers, making sure you have the right kind of acoustic treatment, so it's thick enough and it's spaced off the walls, so it has a broadband absorption capability. Approximately 20% of the room having treatment as far as surface area is sort of a goal, as far as a mix of absorption and diffusion. And when you think about the dimensions of floors and ceilings and walls, that's a pretty substantial amount of stuff. That being said, it depends on the construction of the room, and that's why it's an engineered solution. So someone with hardwood floors and glass and stuff, may need some absorption a lot more than someone that has a lot better or a lot more damped room in general. But anyway, yes, I understand your point that $5,000 does seem like a lot relative to where your system is, and so you have to make a value judgment there. The problem with room treatment is you can't just, it's inherent to the construction of the room, and there's the installation is a good portion of the cost, and you can't just swap it in and out easily as you would, say, a DAC or a phono preamp or something. And we have this generous return policy here in audition process, so that's a lot harder to do with room treatments. So I understand your point that you don't necessarily want to fork out thousands of dollars for something that's sort of an unknown quantity. In any case, thanks for the question. That's a good one, and something that we all are considering in sort of our hi-fi journey as far as what's the next step and where do I spend my money the best. All right, thanks so much. Bye-bye.